This is season 3 of the Journeymen save, where I am passing along this save to a new person each season to see what kind of journey this manager will end up on. And by the way, if you would be interested in playing a season of the Journeyman save, there is a Google form link in the description below to submit your email so that I can send you the save file. Previously, we concluded season 2 with our friend Wally, who was tasked with the difficult challenge of taking on Rans Nusantara in Indonesia, who had just lost its two-star players. Wally performed admirably, leading the team to league safety with a new, narrow tactic. Now moving into Season 3 with Rans Nusantara, I have sent the save to Don. Don and I weren't able to video chat, so I sent him a series of questions via email, and I'll be including his thoughts on the save throughout this video in this format.
So this is the save that I sent to Don. But before we get into the save, first I asked him if he could tell us a little bit of his background in Football Manager.
I started playing exactly a year ago, mostly just playing with my favorite teams, Chelsea and Club Brugge. I have never managed outside of Europe.
Moving into the save file, Rans Nusantara finished 14th last season after being predicted to finish in the relegation zone. So it was a really great job to keep the squad in the league. Moving into next season, there was definitely still the possibility that Rans Nusantara could be relegated. The season preview had them finishing around 13th. But the squad seemed to be in a good place moving into next season, with some really solid players brought in by our previous manager. The finances were also looking pretty good, definitely a lot better than what we had in season 1. Taking all of that into mind, I asked Don what were his initial thoughts upon receiving the save.
I thought I was going to get relegated seeing the season preview. I don't know why the season preview was so bad. We have so many 4-star players.
And I also asked him how he felt about picking up a save that he would only be managing for one season.
A bit weird. You can buy good players and ignore the finances because it's not going to be your problem, but I didn't want to do that.
So with that in mind, let's now move to the save that Don sent back to see how he did in season 3 of the Journeyman save. And after one season, this is the save we've gotten back on May 31st, 2026. And interestingly, we are still with Rans Nusantara. But we do have some good news for our manager because it looks like Don has been able to get us a National C license. So there was no licenses, no coaching badges before. It looks like we have a coaching badge now, and some of these attributes have definitely improved. So before we move into how the team and the manager did this season, let's start off with the transfers. So the first thing I asked Don is if he would like to highlight any of the transfers, and this was his response.
Setio wanted to leave and he was probably our best defender, so that was not good.
Setio is definitely a tough signing to lose. I mean, 4.5-star central defender, very good technical and mental attributes, and really solid pace. So that's definitely a big loss in the center of defense. But it looks like to replace Setio, we do have two signings that were signed for transfer fees. First up, we have Kyrgyzstani Aidar Mambeteliev, and he is a center back. In addition, we also have Ahmad Wayudi, who is another Indonesian center back. So, looks like Don brought in two center backs, so I asked him about that, and this was his response.
So Setio left and I wanted a center back as good as him and a good backup because the players would get suspended a lot and I didn't like the other center backs.
So it looks like he definitely improved the team, bringing in two really good center backs. We also have a couple of free transfers here. We have Saiful Siono, a young Indonesian player who can play in defensive midfield. And we also have Raka Kayana here, who is a player who can play in the attacking mid positions and is another solid Indonesian player. So as far as I would say, just four really good signings to bring into the squad. However, I was also interested to find that Don signed two players who he could not play, but have been brought into the club on a future transfer. Those players are goalkeeper Arturo Delgado and a forward in Fernando. So I asked him about those signings as well.
Our keeper was already 32 years old and was the weak point of the defense. I saw Delgado was only worth 5,000 and he was better than Juprianto. Our backup striker was already 35 and left on a free, so we needed a new backup, and I think Fernando has what it takes to even become a starter. I wanted to give the next person some extra options, and I think these guys will be useful.
Arturo Delgado is pretty seriously a very good player for this level. 25-year-old Mexican player who can play goalkeeper. He's a very good goalkeeper for this level. Something that I definitely look forward in my goalkeepers is I want to see really great arrow reach, really great one-on-ones, and really great reflexes. And pretty obviously, Delgado has all of these attributes. Now, actually, let's compare him to Juprianto, who is currently the goalkeeper for the team. He definitely looks better. Similar, maybe in goalkeeping attributes, but I think he has key attributes that are really good, but definitely some good mental and physical attributes. Fernando looks like a player who's really exciting, though. A 17-year-old Brazilian. I assume that he definitely has room to grow, but really good finishing, good heading. Things that I look for in a forward are finishing, composure, and off the ball. Fernando definitely has that. And he's only 17 years old, so those physical attributes will definitely continue to improve. He looks like a really good signing. This could be a really exciting player who's coming in for the next manager. So those new signings bring us into the tactics for the season. And interestingly, it looks like the tactic is exactly the same as Wally had set up in season 2. So it's definitely the same formation, playing the kind of 4-2-1-2-1. And I don't see any changes in the tactical style. So still attacking, still overlapping to get the most out of those fullbacks on attack, and still playing with the higher line as well. So it looks like Don used the same tactic that Wally implemented. So I also asked him about that.
I looked at the players and didn't see any wingers, so I knew we needed to play a similar formation. I saw the results from the previous season with this tactic. This convinced me this was the right tactic for the team.
Given that Wally had set this up and had a really good end to the last season, I'm happy to see that we've kind of continued with the same tactic that probably helps with team cohesion and tactical familiarity. But also asked Don, since this might be a new tactic, how did it play in the match engine? What was he seeing as far as how the team was playing within matches? And his response to that was really interesting.
It looked like we were playing a mix of tiki-taka and gegenpress, and that looked very good, a bit like Barcelona this year.
So even though last season there might have been some growing pains with this tactic, with Wally, we definitely saw the tactic being successful towards the end of the season, and that momentum and those foundations clearly allowed Don to help shine this season. The foundations were set last season, and Don was able to take those foundations and elevate this tactic and this squad even more than we already saw. And we are seeing, apparently, a Barcelona-esque tactic. So with some really exciting signings, using the same tactic, and apparently some really awesome stuff in the match engine, how did Rons Nusantara do in season 3? And in season 3, Rons Nusantara finished in 4th place. What a massive improvement from last season. 4 points off finishing in first as well. The thing is, in the Indonesian league, though, the top 4 go into a championship playoff. So as long as you finish in the top 4, you do have a chance of winning the league. But last season, the squad finished in 14th. It was a brilliant job just to stay out of the relegation zone. But clearly, the foundations from last season have led to a brilliant 4th place finish in the league. That is a fantastic improvement. I did ask Don how he felt about this, how the season went, and this was his response.
It went amazing. I struggled with all the suspensions, but it worked out perfectly.
So looking through the actual season, how did the team do? So it looks like it was a tough start to the season, but after those first 2 matches, some really good results moving through September, October. Wow, October and November were really brilliant, but definitely, so from November 26th here through to maybe the 1st of March, it looks like a little bit of a tough spell. I did ask Don about this spell, and this was his response.
From November 23rd until March 1st, we only had 1 win in 9 matches, but it didn't matter because we were already pretty high in the table, but I didn't think we would get in the final.
But despite that tough spell, Don was able to get the team to bounce back, going undefeated for the rest of the season, moving into that 4th place finish and the championship playoffs. Before we move into the championship playoffs, I'm curious to see just the progression throughout the season. And it looks like the beginning of the season was a little bit tough, but they squeaked into those top four places right at the end. There's a little bit of a glitch for match day 34 here. But it was a tough start to the season. The team consistently got better, though. And it was at the end of the season, it looks like, where the team managed to get into the championship playoffs. So a really solid end to the season. But moving into the championship playoffs, how did they do? And in the championship semifinal, Ron's new Centaura defeated Persib, who finished first in the league, and made the championship final. And in the final, they lost to Persija. Oh, that's so unfortunate. So looking down here at those two legs, a nil-nil draw at home was followed up by a 1-0 away victory in the 90 plus fourth minute. What a dramatic way to make the championship final. And then in the championship final, which is over two legs, and the away leg actually winning 2-1 with another late goal from Yuda Aditya Pratama. But in the second leg, losing 2-0 at home with a red card. That's really unfortunate. So, given the dramatic end to the season, I did ask Don how those two legs went and how he felt the final ended up going.
I was happy we won the first leg, but I was disappointed at the same time because we could have won with 2 goals difference and had a massive advantage for the second leg at home. In the second leg, we should have drawn. We had control for the whole match but couldn't finish our chances. After that first goal, I still believed we could get a draw, but when they scored their second goal, I knew it would be difficult. If Pratama wasn't injured, I think we would have won.
Unfortunately, you can see here that injury at the end of the season that left Pratama out of the final. That's very unfortunate. But I have to say, what a brilliant season from Don and Ron's new Centaura. Looking at things like job security is very secure. The board is extremely happy with that A minus. I mean, that is a really, really good season, especially from a team that just wanted to avoid relegation from League One to go and make the championship playoff final. That is fantastic work this season. Supporters are happy. The board is happy. Gotta say, the Journeyman Challenge is really going strong right now. I am really curious to see how some of these players did over the course of the season. So if we sort by average rating here, it looks like the best player of the season was Elias Mordal. The Filipino right back looks like he was really good this year. I mean, 3 goals, 18 assists from a right back. Gotta say, those fullbacks on attack must have been really good this season. The other one we'll look at is Kernyawan, who had 5 goals and 4 assists as well. So a really solid season from both of the fullbacks. Looking forward here, it looks like we have Todd Farah and Alpha Fathier who also did good. And Fathier was another wingback. So the fullbacks really coming in with the clutch. Brilliant seasons from them. But Todd Farah here is an attacking mid. So he was one of the AMCs playing. So it looks like the AMCs played really well. Pratama down here getting 21 goals. Actually, if we sort by goals here, by far the top scorer. 21 goals from Pratama, 13 from Farah, and Sihartian here, another player who was maybe playing in one of these two positions. So it looks like the cams and the forwards were doing really well. Antonius Tuna here, also an AMC or an MC, getting 8 goals and 5 assists. So really solid performers there. The fullbacks in attack absolutely cooking as far as assists were concerned. So overall, it looks like in this tactic and based on how the players are doing this season, the stars of this team are the fullbacks as far as getting assists are concerned, and this front three for the goals and assists output. And I gotta say, it looks like everything worked really well, especially attacking wise. Ronsu Santara, 76 goals this season, the second top scorers in the league. Maybe defensively more of a mid-table side, 55 goals allowed. So maybe that's where in the future we might see improvement. But I'm always a fan of attacking tactics. And I mean, this is a tactic that if we look at it again, is played with an attacking mentality, bombs the fullbacks forward, and then looks to have that narrow formation to overload the midfield. I think we're seeing a lot of success there. Second top scorers in the league, 76 goals in 34 matches. A really excellent performance all around. I did ask Don if there were any players he wanted to highlight for how well they did this season, and he chose to highlight three players. So the first of those players was Elias Mordal.
Best fullback in the league. Honestly, no words for this guy.
The second player that Don highlighted was top scorer Yuda Pratama.
Even more goals than last season. An absolute machine.
And the last two players he wanted to highlight were the two AMCs in Farah and Suhartian.
The two cams are insane. Part of the success of Pratama, and they are the goal scorers too.
But this is a journeyman save, and looking through here, this manager has a lot of potential. And it turns out, although we're still with Rons Nusantara, Don also looked at some other options. Looking at job applications and job security, Don actually applied for a number of positions and continued to apply for positions throughout the year, apparently. But we can see here a number of job applications have been sent to teams in Skybet League 1, the Turkish First and Second League, J2 League, the Mexican Expansion League, and the Indian National Football League. So, whoever takes on this save next, there are job applications out there. So you guys might have the opportunity to move to a different league if you would like to. Of course, I did ask Don about why he applied for several different jobs, and this is what he mentioned.
I applied for jobs the whole year around, but didn't get any responses back. A lot of jobs were in the Singaporean league, but I wasn't interested in those. I tried to go to a lower level league in Europe, but I didn't succeed. I think the reason was I didn't have any coaching badges, so I tried to get them, but the club couldn't afford the second.
These are really the first job applications that we are seeing in this save. So it'll be really interesting to see what the next person taking on this save does. Do they stay at Rons Nusantara, or with all the job applications that are out, will there be any interviews? And if there are any interviews, how will they do? And would they take a new job? That will be for the next person to decide. Also, as an aside, because I forgot to include Don's answer about this, but at the end of the last episode, the board did announce they were planning on building a new stadium, but as of yet, that still hasn't occurred. Don said he didn't see any new inbox items about that, but the stadium and everything with it is still the same as it was in season 2. But with that, that is the conclusion to season 3 of the Journeyman save. With that, I did ask Don if he had any concluding thoughts about the save.
I really enjoyed playing the save, and I think the season was really successful.
I also asked him, in preparation for the next person to take on the save, if there were any specific challenges that he found more difficult with this team compared to a save that he might normally do.
The suspension rules, they were horrible. I like to play with some aggression, but I couldn't, otherwise my whole squad would be suspended.
And finally, I did ask Don if there were any pieces of advice that he would like to lend to the next person taking on this save.
I would say don't change what isn't broken. So don't make too many changes in the tactic or change teams after you get more coaching badges.
So with those words from our season 3 journeyman, that is the conclusion of season 3. We are still at Rons Nusantara, but there is definitely the potential to move to a different club. And if you would like to be the one to take on this save, there is a Google form link in the description. Please fill out the Google form link. Please put your email on it. And you could be the person to take on season 4 of this save. I'm really excited to be able to send this save to someone new. And I'm really excited to see where this journeyman ends up. Finally, a massive thank you to Don for taking on the 3rd season of the Journeyman save. Again, I'm super looking forward to see who takes on this save next and where this journey ends up going. But with that being said, I hope you all have enjoyed season 3 of the Journeyman save. I can't wait to see where this goes in season 4. And until then, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves, and I will see you all next time. Bye!